Okay, I'm gonna let anybody, all the viewers, if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to like raise your hands or you can ask it in the chat. So you can ask the whole panelists any questions you have. I know there's still some people joining in and just send them the link. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask us. We're here to answer and here to network with you guys.
Could I just?
Yep, you can go ahead.
Hi, my name is Noni. I'm a rising senior at Jefferson University in Philadelphia. I currently work as a custom designer at Ralph Lauren. So this is a really cool panel to be on, especially, matching like fashion industry stuff with music industry stuff. I think this is really cool. I wanted to know if all of you guys if you guys did go to school, if you went to school for what you're working in now, or was this something that you just kind of started to do after? And how, like, what was your first start? Like, where did you work first, or intern first, or volunteer first? Like, what pushed you to say that this is something that you wanted to do as a career?
So I knew that I wanted to do something along the lines of the music industry since I was 16. I didn't necessarily know that it was stuff in the music industry because I was just doing the basic fangirl stuff, like running update accounts, doing fan projects for artists. I didn't know that really went hand in hand with the music industry because back then it was like taboo almost. It wasn't normalized to have fangirls working in the music industry. So around the time I was in college, it started to become a lot more normalized. And around my junior year in college, I had my first internship with the Holiday Channel as a digital marketer. And I kept doing a lot more digital marketing and music marketing internships throughout my time before I graduated this last month, which I'm super happy about that. Definitely for me, music marketing, my passion came for that since my fangirl days. I mean, I'm still a fangirl now, but like back when I was running those update accounts, I think that's when my true passion really came to doing stuff in the music industry. And in terms of your other question about the major, I majored in communications with an emphasis in advertising. So I felt that it really did went hand in hand with a lot of my internships and a lot of the stuff that I'm doing now with Greater Than.
I don't mind going next. And like Christina was saying, like for me, I think it was about around the same age when I was around 16. I think once I'd done my GCSEs, because we have GCSEs in the UK, that I'd always wanted to do music. So my education has always had music in it. So from that level all the way up, so from university level, and then I did my master's as well. So everything I've done has always been music related. So yeah, I'd say it's been really useful, and kind of just getting my foot in the door, working with record labels, and again, kind of meeting people and telling them what I want to do, and then kind of sharing their experiences with me.
For me, it was the same. I think during my teenage years, I was definitely active a lot in anything I could get into. Like music was always something I was passionate about. It was something I always wanted to get into. Also the same with the fashion industry, and I kind of just tie those both into. Like if I see an opportunity, I would just run in. The first opportunity I got was I was a Galore girl. Galore magazine had this whole brand ambassador that they started. So it kind of gave me a great opportunity. And then they used to invite us to different events. Fortunately, I couldn't go to none of the events because it was all the way in California. And me living on the East Coast, that was not possible for a teenager to just run up and go to California. But I just got my hands into anything that I can get into, joining any groups I can get into, just connecting with different people, asking like people questions about their jobs, and just networking and building my space to launch my own business now, and like just getting hands-on experience.
For me, I always say that music chose me. I did not choose music. So I've always known that I would work in music since I was 5 years old, which is crazy, but I have journals, so there's proof. But just going back to like elementary school, I was like putting on like talent shows. But fast forward to college, I actually majored in journalism. So no, I'm not doing what I majored in, but no complaints. But before that, just to like really get my foot in the door, of course, I mentioned that I was putting on talent shows at my schools. Once I got to college, I was really involved in the DC music scene. So like if they were doing showcases, I could sing. So I was definitely like singing, like trying to show like, hey, listen, I'm just not like a behind the person. I could be in the front too, but I knew that I wanted to transition into the business side. So once I got to college, just like Carolina said, I was also involved with Grammy U. But before I got accepted into Grammy U, I actually had missed the deadline. So what I did was I researched what Grammy U was. And so I started putting on events for the Grammys without their permission. Listen, do what you want, apologize later. I did it. So when the time came around to put in my application, because I think like marketing director or something, but the lady in charge of the DC chapter, she saw what I was doing and I didn't even have to go through the interview process. They're like, okay, cool, get on board. So I was with the Grammy U. And then summer of 2017, I had applied to Sony in the New York office. And the girl that got it, she coincidentally lived in Miami, but she couldn't find a place to stay. And so they're like, hey, this position is available. Can you interview? So I did interview with Sony, did not tell them where I lived. So I got it. And so I literally had to find a place to live in 1 week. But, you know, the stars align if you're walking in your purpose, because I moved to New York City. So after that, after Sony, I went to 300. And so all my life, I thought I would work at a record label because clearly this is what the path I'm working towards. But once I finished college in 2018, that's when I began freelancing. And so I had an opportunity to work at Revolt Summit, which is television. For me, what's important, I just don't believe like being put in a box, like, okay, yeah, I'm the music girl, but I also have other interests. So I like was dipping and dabbing between television and music. And then fast forwarding to where I am now, this is why I say like being active, but also like reaching out to people. So you guys have all heard of that app Clubhouse. And during the Clubhouse era, like of course, everyone in entertainment usually has like their job titles and their bio. And I reached out just like, you know, trying to know about like their journey in the industry. I was not looking for a job. And so that's when I got reached out. And I, of course, stayed in contact with the people at the company of where I work at now. Never thought I'd work at this company. And so when the opportunity came, and I work in sales and marketing, when the opportunity came, the person that helped me get the job was a girl that I met the year before, but we actually built a real friendship. And here I am in 2022, been all over the place, but like, to be honest, like if I could go back in time, I think, yes, it's important to go to college, but to be honest, I did not have to go to college. Now that I look back, I'm like, listen, you did not have to, because they really do look at your experience and can you get the job done at the end of the day. Education is important, but if you're able to have your work ethic co-sign you, you really don't need the educational part. But I'm happy that I did get the education because it gave me opportunity to, of course, you know, interact with my peers and just build those relationships.
Miami, I love that you're so honest about, you know, your experience and also, you know, knowing like whether or not like the degree is actually like required and stuff like that. Because I got my degree in music business, and to this day, a lot of people that I went to school with who, you know, I know their work ethic and everything like that. And even though like some of them didn't finish school and stuff like that, I'm still trying to, you know, get them in on certain business ventures that I'm dipping and diving into. So say like somebody from Def Jam needs like a graphic designer, like they need a new this or a new that. I'm always sharing it with the people I went to school with and stuff like that. So I can definitely relate on that level. But yeah, how I got started, I went to school for 4 years in Columbia, South Carolina, at a small HBCU. Got my degree in music business, and then 2 years prior to that, I was always doing like Facebook searches, Google searches, things like that for internship opportunities. I think I went through a phase at one point where I wanted to be a songwriter because I was like anything to get my foot in the door. It even got to the point where, yeah, I came across this one place that was having a songwriter group in the Columbia area. So I went. I was a sophomore in college at the time. Fast forward like 2 years later after I got my degree, I saw that one of the people who were in that songwriting group, they were actually started management like 2 or 3 years prior. And I got to the level where they needed like an intern. So I was like, okay, so that's how I got in being an intern for a local manager here in Columbia, South Carolina. And then I think like fast forward 8 months, I think 6 to 8 months after that, that's when COVID hit. So the manager stopped working because she traveled most of the time. And meanwhile, all her clients were still hitting me up, asking me to help them with their EPKs, help them with these launches and stuff like that, because they did know that like I was like more responsive to them after a while. And that's where I started my website, thinkchaseinc.com, where anybody can basically go on my website, pick out some services. Of course, like I have like consultations with them and everything like that. My business is about starting people at the level that they're at and helping them grow. And because I feel like every artist deserves to have like affordable music business management. I feel like every artist should have some sort of like starter package where it's legit and they can basically grow from where they are. So with that comes like all these other people who like search me and things like that. I know I'm working with 2 different apps right now, and whenever they actually need people like graphic designers or they need more interns or anything, like I'm always posting it, I'm always sharing it, and that's what helps, like that's what gets some of these companies to come to me over the fact that yeah, I always know how to connect the dots and get people and plug people in. So I think that's probably mainly how I got my start, just genuinely like wanting to help people in the music business.
Yeah, I think that was a really great question, because a lot of people on the artistic side, right? And you mentioned you're a fashion designer, right? Like, yeah. So it's kind of like when you specialize in a craft, a lot of people will ask you like, oh, did you even really need to get a degree in this? Did you even really need to go to school for this? And I think that all the like both answers that you guys have been saying, like kind of not really, but it doesn't hurt. That's definitely accurate, for sure. Like, because I ended up after my first 2 years, I did a double major because I was like, I had that like plan B mentality of like, okay, if music doesn't work out, then I'll just do like, I was doing exercise science, and I found a way to make it like correlate with music. I was like, well, I need to take care of myself as a performer, so I need to know about my body and my health, which is true. But then I realized, if I really want to fully pursue this, so I moved to New Orleans. I went to Loyola University, New Orleans, and they had this new emerging program for popular and commercial music specifically. So with that being like, I'm telling you, like if that's like inside of like that passion is inside of you, like I literally went there without ever visiting, without ever knowing anything about New Orleans, and it ended up being the best 2 years of my life, finishing college. And again, not just because of, a degree, because what's that really like in the music, a record label is not going to be like, hey, like, can I see your bachelor's? But it does help because I was perfecting my craft the entire time, and I was networking, like you get, like the wonderful ladies here said, like you're meeting people constantly and you're connecting the dots. And so I do think that there are definitely benefits in immersing yourself in your industry, in a schooling, like, because we're always going to be learning, we're always going to be students, regardless of how far along we are. So yeah, so that's pretty much it.
Naya, you've had to raise your hand. You want to ask your question?
I did have my hand up, but honestly, you guys did answer the questions that I did have, but I guess I'll still kind of like ask them, and maybe it'll like generate more thoughts for different people. So hi, my name is Anaya. I'm also a rising senior at Jefferson University. And I just wanted to say I'm very grateful for you guys taking the time out of your days and day and giving us such like insightful advice about moving into the industry from being a fangirl. Because growing up, I was always just like such a big fangirl and running all these different accounts. And like I eventually kind of like found like a hidden shame in it and felt like I should have kept it a secret. But now I'm kind of like coming out of that and taking my interest in music more seriously, from like songwriting to music production, marketing, graphic design, and all of those little things. So I guess my question to you guys would be like, how did you find all of these opportunities, paid and unpaid, or create them? And how did you find the courage to fully pursue music and know it was for you?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in here because I got into rock and metal when I was about I'm gonna say 11 in 2009. I was so my first introduction was actually Kiss, and it was through them. I did not want to I didn't know that I wanted to pursue the business side of music until I was introduced to Paul and Jean. They have over 3,000 product licenses to their name for the band. So after that, I pretty well took off from there, and that's when I started to get into co-promoting Kickstarter, founding fan pages, pinning posts for the band's socials, and then sharing it through my stories anytime they would promote for a show.
Thank you.
I guess I'll hop in on it real quick. So you mentioned singer-songwriter, right? I think a couple of things that are really important, aside from, of course, like when you have a passion, you know, not letting really all the outside noise kind of intervene on that. I think that's the most difficult part, mentally at least, because as artists and as people involved in this industry, we feel things a little bit differently. Correct me if I'm wrong, but everything is very intense, but in the best way, right? So I think if you're realistic with yourself, you know, you have to ask yourself, like, truthfully, like, it's not just, am I talented enough? It's, do I have the work ethic? And do I have the skin to really, like, you got to have thick skin in this industry. People will shut doors in your face, but you have to like pick yourself up. And I know it sounds really cheesy, but especially as a woman in this industry, we unfortunately sometimes have to fight a little bit harder, right? So I think understanding also that there's a risk involved. And again, what are you willing to do? And how are you willing to come to terms with what you have is worth like what you want? So you have to remind yourself of that as well. And then of course, understanding that it is an investment, because you talked about, you know, opportunities that will make you money. You may not see a return of investment for a long time. And this is more so from the artist perspective. I don't know about, you know, everybody that's working in the business. I'm sure, you know, that there are internships that are unpaid. And then once you get into something, maybe there's salaries involved and or percentages involved with artists. But I think understanding that there is an investment and you might be losing a lot more, not losing, but spending a lot more money and investing a lot more money in yourself and in your team. And understanding that if everybody can commit themselves to the grind, then you will see that return of investment. It is difficult, but it's worth it. And then lastly, don't limit yourself to what you think you can do as a singer and a songwriter. There's a lot of different compartments in the music industry that sometimes I think the only way that we think we can do it is if our song gets 1 billion streams on Spotify, or if something goes viral on TikTok. Those are all great things, but then how do you follow up with those things? So it's really a matter of planning accordingly, but don't limit yourself. A world that I would look into is sync placements. That's something I've recently gotten involved in. And I recently got 6 of my songs placed in different TV and film, like on Netflix and Hulu. And it's something that happened by accident. And then once I did a little bit more research, you start to come across people and opportunities that now your frame is not only I want to be a touring artist and I want to get, you know, a lot of streams and I want to have super fans, people that truly support me. There are ways to also kind of make money and expand your reach if you just kind of look into it, like outside the box, so to speak. You know, just don't limit what you can do as an artist. Yeah, that's my insight.
I think that's great advice. I'm sorry.
Thank
I
you.
think that's great advice. And what I would say is just follow your heart as well. Just make sure if you're going to do it, just follow your heart and be sure that that's what you really want to do. And for me, I think it's just about persevering, having that resilience, like was already said before, and just keep going. Like sometimes I know it might get hard. It might seem a bit of an uphill struggle sometimes and you're not getting anywhere. But that's probably when some of the best stuff that always comes out. And I would say surround yourself with people as well that are inspirational and creative, because I always feed off of that as well. I always get some great ideas. So collaboration is a great way of growing and expanding, and also getting other opportunities as well by sharing their story with you or what you're doing with them. They might say they've got something that they can bring you in on, or you can bring them on. So again, it's just about sharing that vision and just being passionate and following your dreams and going for it, really. Yeah.
What I would say, even though like you want to be a singer, don't like try to force that dream to happen. I'm not sure like how to fully like articulate this, but basically like there's not one way to get into the industry, and your main goal is trying to get into the industry. So I would say like when the opportunity comes, just jump for it and know how to like pivot while you're pursuing your main goal, which is singing, but just don't be like stuck in your, this is what's going to happen, this is how it should happen, because success, you know, that's not how it works. So definitely just like be prepared to pivot while you're pursuing your main goal.
Thank you.
I think for me, it was I started focusing more on the longevity of my career and trying to figure out. So I literally started doing just anything I could get my hands on to get in the career. And I think now at this point in my life, I'm just focusing on like the long-term portion of the career. So I started off like just creating lists of what I wanted to do, and then handling like when I wanted to do it, type of deadline I wanted to do. So now I think I've completed my short-term stuff. Now I'm going to do my long-term stuff. So it's just like focusing on the longevity and then what you could get your hands on. So I'm gonna, Andrea asked the question in the chat. She said, I'm in more need of advice of how to really explain to my parents what I'm going to school for and why I make edits or projects for concerts and music releases.
Let me hop on that question because I don't know if like your parents are foreign, but my parents are foreign. So like it's really difficult. I think like it's not difficult because my mom has always, of course, supported me. But at the end of the day, you have to remember that these are your dreams. They may not get it at the moment, but you have to do what works for you and what's going to make you happy in the long run. At what I would do, honestly, I would like make a list of 5 people that have succeeded at what you're pursuing and show them like, hey, it's happened before. And if what you're pursuing has never happened before, let you be the example. But of course, you have to make your parents happy, but you're living your life. So I would definitely, at the end of the day, reflect and realize that you're doing this for you.
I think for me, definitely had struggles with that for the beginning, like especially when I was like doing stuff mostly into fashion. So what I would do is like I would sit down and show my parents all the work I'm doing and show them like an outline of the plan so they like could fully understand why I'm doing it and why I'm pursuing it. So that definitely helped a lot. And they got on board, and then and they helped me kind of like along the way with my journey now. And I see you have your hand raised. You can go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, everyone. So I graduated back in December 2020 with a degree in business management, and I've been working in a completely different industry for the past 4 years in construction. And I'm at the point now where I'm ready to transition into the music industry. And, I've observed a lot on LinkedIn online, and I found it harder to transition when you're already in an industry versus someone in university getting the opportunity to do these internships or like Graham University and all that stuff. So do you guys have any advice for people in that kind of situation?
I would reinforce your passion for music. I mean, it's a known fact that it's hard to break into this industry. Like we all know that most people would have tried a different, if not career, but a different job in a different industry just to pay the bills. Like even if it was just to pay for your training or your private lessons or whatever you had to do. So I think everyone is on board with that. But we want to know that you are sincere because it is a tough industry in terms of work-life balance. There isn't really one. And it's very much a heart-driven place. And then also look for transferable skills, like in the construction industry, it's about like resource management. And like if you're a female in the construction industry, that sounds pretty badass to me. Like you got to be able to hold your own. So think about things like that. Like, yeah, I was just saying, like, you know, resource management comes into mind. Being able to follow through a project plan comes into mind. Being able to work as a team comes to mind, and having a vision. These are all things that you can transfer to the music biz.
Just to piggyback off of that, I also would say, you know, like Leah said, just take, you know, what you learned, or like apply things that you did in that industry to the music industry. Like, first of all, I would say have 2 different resumes. Like have a resume for things in the your regular resume for the construction industry and all the other industries, and then have specifically a music industry resume. And for construction, I would say you'd be able to definitely get into like stagehand. That's the stagehand industry, the touring industry, tour management, booking agents. For booking agents, you can say that you did have like construction experience, because that works well with that. I've actually been a stagehand before, so that's what I saw on like different resumes when I was like passing people through and stuff like that. So that there are definitely different types of ways you can make that transition. And also don't revamp your resume by taking on some entry-level music industry positions as well. Like the internships, it's definitely a good way for you to hone in on exactly where you want to be if it's within the industry, if it's not something like what you were doing.
And I'll just jump on the back of that from what Chase is saying, sorry, is that basically I would make sure that your cover letter is tailor-made as well, and your CV is relevant to the job you're applying for. There's no point putting skills on your CV that's not relevant to that position unless it's transferable skills, because it's not relevant. So some people will just send a generic CV. What I would recommend is trying to tailor make the CV and the cover letter to each job you're applying for. I know it takes a little bit longer, but it just shows that you're more committed and you've read the job description, so you know exactly what the skills they're looking for, and then you try and fill those skills.
Just to piggyback off what they said, what I would do, like if you have like a particular company you want to work for, I would take my resume, look at the language that they're using and your skills, and just like bring that together. And then of course, like the volunteer opportunities and internship opportunities, just like the word I would use is just finesse the system, you know, just to get in, but definitely just study the language that they use and apply that to your resume. Even if it's just with construction work, there's always a way to like, you know, work the system.
I also think, just real quick, I think something that could really be a good answer for both Andrea and Anna is to find like-minded individuals that are serious, whether it's artists or a team that that will build with you, because whether it's like your parents asking you, well, why are you doing this and what are you doing, you're going to be able to show them a nice product, because if you're riding with the right people, well, look at what they're doing, and look at what I'm doing for them, and look at how we're growing and building. And the same thing with Anna, right? It's the same type of thing. You're moving into kind of a different realm. It's the same concept. If you find the right people to grow with and build with, and sometimes it's not that easy, but if you can find people on that same wavelength as you, both you guys, ladies, I think that will really also help to amplify and legitimize what it is you want to do.
Okay, Gabriella, you can ask your questions. I know the time's about to run out again. Sorry about that. So we have time for just your question left. And then we're gonna wrap this up.
Okay. I was like, I'll try to make it fast so we don't go over time. Hi, my name is Gabby. I am from Bay Area, California, and I am in my second year of college and just transitioned from political science to business. I do have a little bit of background as far as helping some fandoms just within just being like a fangirl and helping out with events for like concerts, you know, any type of like, you know, tea house events that are very popular amongst like a lot of like the K-pop fandoms and groups that are like starting to get very big and popularized as of now. But I do have most of my business background in retail and fashion. And I'm starting to see like, or notice with myself that is a little bit harder to try and make that transition from, you know, doing a lot of this fashion and like retail background and being able to, you know, integrate it into my music industry resume and how to just like implement it and make it more appealing and more of a standout, you know, when going to these companies. And I just want to know, just from your guys' perspective, from where you guys have come from, like within like your industries, like how do you make that transition just like a little bit more seamless? Because it's like, it seems like it's really hard at first. And I just want to know like what are like some advice that you guys can give?
Like this, they were saying the two resumes, as someone who works also in the fashion industry side, I have two different resumes. I have a fashion industry resume and a music industry resume. For before I got my experience in the music industry, like I would reword some of the things I've worked on in the fashion industry and make it into the language that the music industry, so for the companies I'm applying for, I would see like what they're looking for and just reword it to fit what they're looking for, and also rewording my cover letter to what they're looking for and tailoring to each and every company. So the transition was just focusing on my resume and rewording and applying the skills that I've already learned in the fashion industry and using it in the skills I'm doing now in the music industry.
Thank you.
Yeah, so basically just get out there and meet people and get out there and see if you can meet people on a level where you can connect with them as well. Because again, that will help making those connections and getting that experience as well. Because if you can meet people, they can obviously share that experience they have with you or give you an opportunity. So I'd recommend going on Facebook pages, networking events, one-to-one events, conferences, anything like that where you can kind of meet people and build friendships. That will also be really, really useful.
I've always made a lot of connections when I was working at festivals, and I remember I think I like volunteered for festivals like 2 years, and I met a lot of contacts that way. They always need volunteers.
That's all the time we have for today. I'm sorry I have to leave a little bit early because I have a family emergency I just got to deal with at the moment. But I thank you guys so much for connecting with us. Thank you guys so much for asking all your questions. We're going to be back again same time tomorrow. We have more panelists joining in, so you guys can always come in, connect with us. I will be sending out a whole email blast to everyone with all our panelists connections. You connect them on LinkedIn, their social media sites, so you'll get all of that through emails. Thank you to the panelists for joining in and taking the time out today to speak with our lovely viewers. Hope you guys have the rest of your great day and great weekend.